the elect will not take the RFID CHIP, right? For those who don't know, I did a lesson about this a couple weeks ago. If you don't know what is the RFID, what is the mark of the beast? It is the RFID CHIP, right? It's the RFID implant. You gotta use these code words so they don't take it out in the video. You might have just took it down from me saying the MOTB by saying the full name, right? By spelling it out. It might take down the video. But this is the mark, okay? This is the mark right here. This is it, right? This implantable device, right? This is gonna be right. So they're gonna cut into your flesh to put this device inside of you, okay? To put this device inside of you, right? You won't be able to buy, you won't be or sell, which you won't be able to do business, you won't be able to work, you won't be able to go to a hospital, you won't be able to go to a clinic, you won't be able to go to on the airport and buy a plane ticket without having this RFID CHIP inside of you. Okay? You won't be able to do it. Okay? Right? And just like it prophesied in Revelation 13, 16, and 17, right? They're gonna put it in your right hand or in the forehead. In verse 16, Revelation 13 and 16, they're gonna try to put it in your right hand and in the forehead. And that's the forehead speaking about that Neuralink, because that's the Elon Musk's company. They're already C-hipping people. They're putting that digital imprint inside people's forehead. Okay, so the technology is here, right? But in order for the prophecy to come to pass, it has to be mandatory and basically forced on the people. Okay, it has to be mandatory. So it's not mandatory yet, right? You have people that's voluntarily right now, they're volunteering to get this digital implant inside of them. So it's not forced, right? And also, the dollar had to collapse because the B system is designed around a digital-based currency system. So in order for digital currency to thrive and exist, the dollar, the U.S. currency, the modern-day dollar, right, or the currency of other countries has to be destroyed as well, because it's not just going to be in the U.S. This digital-based currency system is going to be all around the world, right? And we already seeing certain countries adopting, digital currency as their new form of currency. Okay, so this is going to be worldwide, and it's going to be forced on the people, right? Particularly those mainly particularly those in the over here, right, in Babylon the Great, aka America, because majority of the elect, the majority, not all, the majority of the elect is in America. So, and that's where the bulk of the deliverance is going to happen at, in America, because like I said, most of the elect are in America. Now, like it tells us in Matthew 24 chapter, that the elect, right, the Lord will command his elect to gather. The Lord will command his angels to gather the elect from all across the world. Okay, so the elect is everywhere, but like I said, a bulk, right, the majority of the elect, which makes up of the 144,000 and 1/3, they are right here residing in Babylon the Great, aka America. Okay, so that we clear. All right, this is what's going to be forced on the people, and this was going to be required of you in order for you to buy and sell and to live in Esau's live in society, right? Right now, it's not being required, but soon, very, very soon, this is going to be required. Okay, and that's why it's called the hour of temptation, because because every man and woman, even child, has to make that choice, right, of whether they're going to take this hip or not. And we know that everything is spiritual, so really it boils down to who got the spirit of the Lord on them, the spirit of the Lord on them or not, or who don't. Because those that have the spirit of the Lord's going to be with them in that day and compel them not to take it, right? He's going to put the spirit on them not to take it. See? But everybody else, they're going to take it. Why? Because the Lord's not going to be dealing with them. The Lord's not dealing with the people in the world. They're going, when this MOTB is forced on the people, right? And one of the ways Esau is going to force it on people is through persecution, through the fear of death. Because if you don't take it, you're going to be you're going to be tortured, and eventually put the death. Okay, so it's the fear of death that's going to scare people into complying. It's going to make people comply. Fear is the fear of death, and also the fear of bodily harm, because you're going to be tortured. Okay, they're going to try to torture. They're gonna try to torture and do different methods to break the minds and souls of those individuals that don't get the mark, because it's gonna be many individuals, right, that's not gonna get it, the mark. Okay, not everybody's gonna take it. It's gonna be some that's gonna refuse to take the mark, right? But see, only the elect is not gonna break, because even people in the world that know about the MOTB and know what it is, and they might not take it at first, eventually they're gonna break and take it. Why? Because the Lord is not dealing with the people in the world. So even if they know what it is, and they say, I'm not gonna take it, eventually they will, because the Lord is not dealing with them. He's not gonna preserve the people in the world. He's only gonna preserve the elect. So the elect are the only ones who say they're not gonna take it and will not break and will not take it, right? Because someone can say they're not gonna take it, but if you're being tortured and you're being psychologically broken, they breaking down your mind, because they got the manuals and the training to do it. If the Lord is not with you in that day, right, the average man is gonna fold and comply and take the sea hip, but the elect won't. Why? Because the spirit of the Lord is gonna make sure. The Lord is gonna make sure ultimately. The Lord is gonna make sure He's gonna put that spirit on them, never to take it, to choose death rather than compliance, to choose to be martyred rather than submitting to Esau's beast system, right? And his NWO, because ultimately that's what he's trying to push, the NWO, right? That's his 2030 agenda, the NWO. So let's get Revelation 2:10. It says, fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison. The devil, the word devil goes back to the Greek diablos. And not talking about the spiritual demon saying, it's talking about diablos. Diabolos.
Strong's G 1228. Diabolos.
It's like it. Diabolos. The Greek diabolos. I was incorrect. It's Greek strong G 1228. Diabolos, right? That's the Greek for devil, diabolos, which means prone to slander, right? Slanderous, accusing falsely, right? What the scripture say? The accuser of our brethren who accuses day and night. Who does that? Right? The accuser of our brethren is Esau Edom, the so-called YT man, because particularly the elites of Esau Edom, the elite, right? These Edomites that's all the position of the elites, right? That's in those elite, that's in those top banking families, those 13 royal families, right? They have their priests constantly making petitions, right, against us, slandering us, accusing us falsely, because they'll say, oh, Jake is eating pork and Jake is doing this and Jake is doing that and your people doing this and your people doing that, right? But like it tells you in Habakkuk 2:16, woe unto him who gave his neighbor bottle to drink and have made him drunken, right? So really, it's Esau's fault. Jake is wicked, but they haven't. You know what I'm saying? They push Jake further into wickedness because they made it easy and acceptable and accessible for Jake to be wicked. You see what I'm saying? Because you put the drugs in the community, you put the guns in Jake community. You know what I'm saying? You program them in with your social media, and you program them with your media ultimately to, believe, and then also with your music, you send out certain frequencies to get, to produce negative emotions, anger, rage, hate, and all these other things. Then you're using witchcraft to put, they keep our people down, right? So you are the reason why Jake is so bad the way they are. Yeah, Jake is wicked, but you made him worse by what you're doing behind closed doors, behind those scenes, right? Because Esau works in secrecy. So yeah, Esau, Edom, particularly the elite of Esau, they're the ones that's falsely accusing us. They're the one that's slandering us, right? Verse says metaphorically, it says metaphorically applied to a man who, by opposing the cause of Yahweh, may be said to act the part of the devil or to side with him, right? And that's Esau, Edom, because they're the physical counterpart of Satan, and they work with the spiritual demon Satan in order to help fulfill their enterprise, okay? And help get their 2030 agenda, right? Help to complete their 2030 agenda. If you don't know about it, you can look it up, the 2030 agenda. All right. World Health Organization, the WHO, right? 2030 agenda. Okay. And it's all code for the New World Order. All right, where everybody is implanted with that RFID CHIP, and they're controlled and they're monitored and they're watched constantly. Just like in the book George Orwell's 1984. You have a big brother system that's constantly watching and surveillance in everything people are doing. Okay, and also in the NWO, in the beast system, right? They're gonna be able to not only track your purchases, but they can also cancel transactions because all the money, right? All transactions, they're gonna be able to stop and monitor. So now they can't control how you spend your money, right? And what you spend your money on. But in the NWO, they can control how you spend your money and what you spend your money on, because they can instantly just turn off your chip. You see? Turn off your CHIP, and now you can't buy certain things. That future is coming. We need to buy certain things. And then they're gonna have it to where it's gonna be like a social credit system. So where are if you if you're so where every person gonna get a social credit score, and if your credit score is your social credit score is low, right? You're gonna be restricted in this NWO in this B system, okay? But if it's high, you'll be able to enjoy the same privileges that we're doing now. We to watch certain shows, eat at shop at nicer supermarkets, eat at certain eat out in nice restaurants and get discounts on certain products. See what I'm saying? All because you have a higher social credit score. See? So the devil here is speaking about Esau Edom. All right. So it says, fear none of these things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried, and ye shall have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. So that's what we're fighting for, the crown of life, right? I'll tell you that in Sirach 4:28. Strive with the truth unto death, and the Lord shall fight for thee. Okay? So we have to strive with the truth even unto death. Like the Lord is telling us here, we got to be willing to, and that's not for all of us, because the scripture says some of you, right, says shall cast some of you into prison. The devil shall cast some of you into prison. So it's not all of us. It's gonna only, that lot is only for those who are gonna be captured and thrown into concentration camps. But we all must be prepared and be ready to make that sacrifice. We all must be prepared and ready to go through that if it be us, because we don't know who the Lord designated or chosen to go through that. We don't know. I don't know if I'm chosen. I don't know if you're chosen, right? But we have to be ready mentally and spiritually to go through that if we are chosen, right? Like the saying goes, get ready so you don't have to be ready, okay? And ultimately, elect will be ready because it's the Lord that's going to get them ready and mentally and spiritually prepared to experience this, okay? Not all of us, it's some of us, right? But what I will push is that we all be ready, because we don't know who's who. We don't know who will go through this. We don't know what brother, sister, or even child is going to have to go through this. We don't know. So we should all be ready, man. Constantly reading. And how do we get ready? Praying, reading, getting into the scriptures like we've been doing, right? And seeking the Lord, trying to and continually striving to get closer and closer to Him. All right? That's how we get ready. And I'll leave you off with this. The elect will not take the mark, okay? This is the correction video of the lesson that I did. The elect will not take the mark, okay? The RFID hip. This is the RFID hip, okay? I got to use code words so they don't take the video down. This is what it looks like. See? Just a little bigger than a grain of rice. You know what I'm saying? That's what it is. This is exactly what it is. And this is what's going to be required. This is what's going to be forced on all the people in the future. All right. So I'm going to read this and then we'll wrap this video up. It wound up being long-winded, Salakia. But we'll wrap this video up with this precept. This is 2 Maccabees 7. 2 Maccabees 7. And six. So let me see if it's 6. All right. Come. This is the book of Second Maccabees, chapter 6, and verse 21. I go to verse 20, right? No, verse 18. It says, Eleazar, one of the principal scribes, an aged man and of well-favored countenance, was constrained to open his mouth and to eat swine's flesh. But he, choosing rather to die gloriously than to live stained with such an abomination, spit it forth and came of his own accord to the torment. As it behooved them to come, they are resolute to stand out against such things as are not lawful for love of life to be tasted. But they that had the charge of that wicked feast for the old acquaintance, they had with the man taking him aside, besought him to bring flesh of his own provision, such as was lawful for him to use, and make it as if he did eat of the flesh taken from the sacrifice commanded by the king. So the king, right, they had men, the Eleazar, one of the chief priests, chief scribes, principal scribes, right, they wanted, and he was well respected, and they wanted him to eat swine flesh. So they try to force feed him swine flesh, right? But it didn't work. So this is the time of the Greeks, okay? During the time of King Antiochus Epiphanes IV. So they try to force feed swine flesh in Eleazar's mouth, and he refused to eat it, okay? So there was a few acquaintances that came to him privately, not privately, but they came to him and they talked to him and said, hey, look, you can eat whatever meat, that you prefer. Just make it seem as if it's swine flesh so that you convince everyone else that it's okay to eat swine flesh. See what I'm saying? All right. Verse 21. But they that had the charge of that wicked feast for the old acquaintance that had with the men taken him aside, besought him to bring flesh of his own provision, right? Because they knew him. They were old acquaintances, so they knew him. Okay? So they try to pull him to the side. It was like, hey, you can eat whatever meat you want. Just try to convince the people that it's swine flesh so that they'll be okay with eating it. So they were using Eleazar as a way to try to get the people to comply to the ways of the heathen, right? To try to break the law. The scripture clearly tell you in Leviticus 11th chapter, right, that you're not supposed to eat swan flesh. So they're using an elder, because Eleazar would be an elder. They trying to use the elder to try to get the everyone else to go off. See, so it says, keep on, besought him to bring flesh of his own provision, such as was lawful for him to use, and make as if he did eat of the flesh taken from the sacrifice commanded by the king, that in so doing he might be delivered from death, and for the old friendship with them find favor. Right? So he had a choice, Eleazar. Either he be a part of the scheme, right? Part of the act, eat pretended swine flesh to try to compel everybody else who watches it that it's okay to eat swine flesh, or he be put to death. Okay? Verse 23. But he began to consider discreetly, and as became his age, in the excellency of his ancient years, and the honor of his gray head, whereon was come, and his most honest education from a child, or rather the holy law made and given by Yahweh Bashimashah. Therefore he answered accordingly and willed them straight ways to send him to the grave. So he chose death, right? Because he reflected on his life, right? Him being a principal scribe, you know, serving the Lord, right? Raising the ways of the Lord all his life since a child, man. You know what I'm saying? And how he lived. So he chose death rather than to dishonor everything he stood for. You see what I'm saying? Which was the ways of Yahweh Shema Shah. So he rather choose death than submit and and follow the ways of the heathen. Okay? By eating that swan flesh, by deceiving the people. He rather die than deceive the people. Okay? That's integrity, right? And this is the type of integrity that we must have and that the elect will have. Okay? So rather they rather choose to die than to submit to the heathen, right? The king being King Antiochus Epiphanes the Fourth, right? And I would say it would be King Antiochus Epiphanes the Fourth. Okay. But for I would say it's talking about that mark. You know, we rather die than take Esau's RFID here. Okay. Finding it fit to be martyred than to worship the beast system and take, you know, the MOTB. Okay, verse 24. For it becameth not our age, said he, in any wise to dissemble, whereby many young persons might think that Eleazar, being fourscore years old and 10, were now gone to a strange religion. I believe fourscore years is 80. I'm not mistaken. I believe he was 80 years old. Let me just double check that real quick. Yeah, 80 and 10, so he's about 90 years old. Because it says N10, so he's about 90. Okay, so he was 90 years old at this time. All right. Continuing on, it says, for it becometh not our age, said he, in any wise to dissemble, whereby many young persons might think that that Eleazar, being fourscore years old and 10, which is 90 years old, because fourscore years is 80, and then you got to add the 10 because it says N10. So it says being fourscore years old and 10, right? So fourscore years is 80, then you got to add the 10, which makes 90. Okay. It says, whereby many young persons might think that Eleazar, being fourscore years old and 10, were now gone to a strange religion. And so they through mind hypocrisy and desire to live a little time and a moment longer should be deceived by me, and I get a stain to my old age and make it abominable. For though for the present time I should be delivered from the punishment of men, yet should I not escape the hand of the Almighty, neither alive nor dead. Wherefore now, manfully changing his life, I will shew myself such as one as my age requireth, and leave a notable example to such as be young to die willingly and courageously for the honorable and holy laws. And when he had said these words, immediately he went to the torment. Okay. Verse 29. They that led him, changing the goodwill, they bid him a little before into hatred, because the foresaid speeches proceeded as they thought from a desperate mind. Right? So they thought that, you know, that he was saying this out of desperation because he was going to, you know, perish but he considered the matter. He wanted to leave an example for all the young men, right? That's willing to lay down their life for the Lord, you know, and not deceive the people and go out with honor. So he chose honor rather than to live in disgrace, because had he chose to, deceive the people, he would have lived in disgrace and ultimately faced judgment. So he chose honor, to die with honor, than to live his life in disgrace. Okay. And that's what's gonna happen to, those that take the RFID hip, the MOTB. They're gonna live their they're gonna enjoy themselves for a little moment, but then ultimately they're gonna get hit with an ICBM missile, and they're gonna die a very slow and painful death. So it's not gonna be worth it in the end. Verse 30, but when he was ready to die with stripes, he groaned and said, it is manifest unto the Lord that have the holy knowledge, that whereas I might have been delivered from death, I now endure sore pains in body by being beaten, but in soul I am well content to suffer these things, because I fear him. And thus this man died, leaving his death for an example of a notable courage and a memorial of virtue, not only unto young men, but unto all his nation. So we got to be in that spirit to where we fear the Lord, and we're content with suffering rather than submitting to the wishes of the king, right? In this stakes, it'll be Esau and taking his RFID hip. We gotta be willing to suffer and lay down our lives rather than take that RFID hip, just like our forefather Eleazar did. You know what I'm saying? He died leaving a good example, for us. You see, rather choosing death than to live, than to face the wrath of the Lord, and rather than deceiving the people and facing the wrath of the Lord. Man. So that's about it. I'm sorry for it being long-winded. That's a lot that I said, but Lord willing, was an edifying lesson, and the correction is made, and that you understand that the elect is not going to take the mark. So with that, we give our honor, praises, glory to our power, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. Double honor to the elder apostle, elder bishop, the great Misto, and salutations to the whole elect. Shalom, Abba Shalom.